महाराज की जय।
नित्यानंदाय गुरवे सिद्ध संसार हारिणे भक्तकार्ये कदेहाय नमस्ते चित्सदात्मने ॐ नमः शिवाय गुरवे सच्चिदानन्दमूर्तये निष्प्रपञ्चाय शान्ताय निरालम्बाय तेजसे ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय. A very good morning and welcome everybody who's here and also those who are looking and seeing us in several parts of the world. Sometimes I had the opportunity to read some emails that come from other countries that I don't even remember they exist. And it is great to think that the word of Shanti Mandir reaches all those places like Holland, for example, other countries in Europe, and some in South America. It's wonderful. So we're in the year 2025, 25th anniversary of Shanti Mandir in Walden. It's a great thing. And I was thinking we've been studying at least for those 25 years, but a lot more, because we started in a town that is nearby, and I'm saying it like because there are people who come for the first time. It's called Pine Bush. We were there 11 years in that ashram, in that house. And there was always the Sunday program. It never stops. And there were, I remember the class with Patanjali Yoga Sutras with Dana, 1 year studying Patanjali. Then we studied, no, you remember. And the reason I want to remember all this is how these sacred texts have changed us or made us grow, because when you look at it 25 years later, you don't know if anybody evolves like that just because of the passage of time or because we were studying, but we were all together studying, and some of us are still here today, which is beyond wonderful. So then I was teaching Patanjali Yoga Sutras for a year, then Narada. So this is the aphorisms of devotion. And the Narada explains everything related to the feeling, to the behavior, to the relationships with the divine, and it's called the aphorisms of devotion or Bhakti Sutras, 1 year. Then we study Ashtavakra Gita, which is a story of a sage, a very wise person, who was born with born defects in 8 places, was like maybe like this. So it's called Ashtavakra, which means twisted in 8 places. And that is a wonderful, wonderful book, and we studied it for 1 year. Then the Bhagavad Gita, I mean, what can I say about the Bhagavad Gita that not everybody knows? Such a great work, 18 chapters, and we learn everything. If you read the Bhagavad Gita, they say, you don't need to read anything else. But we must need it since we are reading more, right? So 1 year. And out of that year, I remember months and months and months of chapter 16 of the Bhagavad Gita that is called the divine and demoniac qualities of the person. So we were, I think, easily 6 months analyzing one by one all the demoniac qualities, the divine qualities. The first of which, in case you don't remember, is absence of fear. So to start on the spiritual path, absence of fear is a must. Then somebody remembers something else. One of the big favorites is Spandakarikas. Spandakarikas is long. It contains many stories, and it's about the vibration of energy, the consequences of that. And we analyze this Kashmir Shaivism, extraordinary book. And I remember that it was very popular because I was teaching it in the Spanish study group, and we couldn't finish it that year. And what we did is the following year, the first 6 months, it was half and half, because the girls, the ladies, they told me we have to finish that book. So Spanda Karika is a jewel. Then we went seriously into Kashmir Shaivism. And last year, Gurudev surprised us with something we had not studied before formally, which is called Upanishads. So the Upanishads we started studying, and then we discovered, I mean, it's like another world, really, because what they say is Brahman is one, you are that, and when you understand that, you have the highest achievement, you don't need to do anything else. So we studied Upanishads for 1 year. And now I feel that we're entering a totally mysterious and new territory, which is called Sri Vidya, and that Gurudev, I'll explain my feeling. He's opening this door that were ajar before, like, oh, Tantra? No, Tantra, no. So we were studying, but not studying, but now deeply into the Sri Vidya, we are learning and doing and practicing what is called the Tantra. So the word has many connotations, but actually it's extraordinary. And it is like the big umbrella, Sri Vidya, that covers everything that we have to study, Tantra. Part of it is Kashmir Shaivism, part of it is Vedanta, and part of it is just Tripura Sundari that we will explain now. And because a lot is there to study, at the end of this talk, and I'm gonna measure my time, I have my list of subjects that we must cover between now and August, because it's a lot. It's fun, it's very interesting, it's very scientific. So Sri Vidya, as I was saying, the umbrella of all this, and basically what it says is everything is perfect as it is. All the patterns of creation are one. So the pattern of creation of the smallest atom and the pattern of creation of the biggest galaxy, and whatever we don't know, because they say the universe is continually expanding and every time faster. You must have heard that if you like science. So it's expanding, and when it is not expanding, it is contracting, but it's never stagnant. We are that, because every atom, every place is the same pattern. So when we think of that, we think of this. This is the greatness of Tantra. And this is where we have to get. And even any moment I'm not really clear, make a face or raise your hand. Because what we hear, we are Shiva. I am Shiva, I am God, I am divine, I am all this. But how do we really, like scientifically, prove it? By studying all these patterns, all the energies or forces that are outside, and by seeing them outside, applying them to us. So when we see that it matches, so to speak, then we know that we are that. So the same patterns of creation are present in everything. Everything. The more they study, the more they discover that it's exactly the same. And for that reason, people can clone. Remember they cloned first a sheep many years ago? So one cell contains all the information of everything. It is there in form of potentiality. And now comes to my mind that story in the Upanishads where somebody asks, what is this power by which I can hear, by which I can see, by which I can taste, by which I even know that I can do these things? And so the sage asked the disciple, bring me a fruit. It's a fruit with the seed, of course, inside. Open the fruit, and then he shows the seed. What is inside the fruit? The disciple says, a seed. Open the seed, then opens the seed, and there's nothing. So the teacher asks him, what is inside the seed? And the student says, nothing. So he says, no, there is the potentiality for creation. It is there, it's invisible to the eyes, but it is there, as it is in us. So that is what happens with the patterns of creation that now is being studied so much, like people who get the Nobel Prizes in physics, they can explain all these things, and then they think they're discovering something new, but it's not new, it's very ancient. The Greeks also love to study this. So what we're studying, what is it? Is it a religion? Is it a philosophy? Or what is this Sri Vidya? They call it a darshana in Sanskrit, which of course is the same word as darshan. And darshan means to see. When we come in line at the end of the programs with the Guru, then we come and we say, I'm going to get darshan, which is I'm going to get the vision. But the idea is in having the vision of him or her, then I have the vision of myself. Because at that moment, grace is totally, fully there. And we must at all times remember that it's like a mirror. It's not just we come to see a person, it's we come see that whatever is see the Shanti Mandir. So then it is a darshana, and it is different from a philosophy because philosophy, for the Greeks, it means love of knowledge or love of wisdom. And you could say that it's the same thing, but not really, because darshan implies that the knowledge is practical, that we are going to experience it in this body. And the main tenets of Tantra, this I'm going to read it because it has a lot of words, it's just a paragraph, revolve around the idea that the mundane and the sacred are interconnected and that all things are expressions of the divine. And when I say here everything, it means everything. Not just what is nice, not just what is kind, not what is lovely, not what is clean, everything. We can remember here that there is a chapter that we have studied, which is called the 9 rasas, which are the feelings we can have by stimuli that we get from things. So it can be joy, awe, disgust, fear, all these things. They're 9, and we must experience them fully. We must not say, oh, I feel disgust, I look the other way. What they say is go into it and experience it because it's one of the 9 rasas, which is part of the divine experience. And if you remember, there's been dancers that come here and do Bharatanatyam, which is a type of dance that they move with their eyes like this. It's incredibly beautiful and colorful. And when you see them, they are like actresses as well as dancers. So when they, I remember when they do disgust, they go like, or when they go fear, it's very exaggerated like the Greeks. It's beautiful. So they don't run away from anything, and those 9 rasas are they to be experienced. Then it says, it emphasizes direct experience, so we must know it, we must do it. It's not just to study, it's to experience it. Direct experience of reality through various practices, including ritual, which we do here, meditation, which we do here, and the use of sexual energy, with the ultimate goal of liberation and spiritual realization. So everything has that goal. Tantra also emphasizes the importance of embodiment, which is another word for, okay, I must experience this, and the interconnectedness of the physical and spiritual realms. Where does this come from for us? So in the times of Baba Muktananda, which is not so far away in the past, he used to do the intensives for 2 days. I remember I never met him. I came after he left his body. But I remember he told people, I can change your life. The Shakti can change your life. Give me 2 days. And he always said, just give me 2 days. So people gave him 2 days, and the intensives were 2 days. And then they sat there, like we do with intensives with Gurudev, to meditate, to chant, etc. Baba's power, or the theme, because in America you would say his thing, no? But his theme is better. It was the rising of the created force that is called Kundalini. That was the main thing that he offered. And when this energy arises from the base of the spine throughout the body, then life changes and we see things very differently. So he used to do that, and I remember there were talks, like there are now talks in the intensive. So there was one talk about the Guru talk, and there was a Kundalini talk. And I remember the person who used to do these talks was called Swami Kripananda, who was Gurudev's English teacher, by the way. And so she would tell all these stories of people who wrote letters to her, telling her about all these experiences that they had when the Kundalini energy was rising in the body. The thing there is that all of this was very different. The people saw things, they felt like crying, they felt ill, they stopped smoking, you name it. Everything happened with the rising of the energy of Kundalini. So Swami Kripananda was there. She came to Mexico one time to do one intensive, and she told all these stories about somebody in Argentina who had fantastic experiences. But the thing here is we must not covet those experiences, but just we have what we have. And the experiences are extraordinary. If we think in 25 years ago to now, how much has changed, how much has improved, how much we have learned. So these are, Gurudev continues with this tradition, the tradition of the Kundalini, but like he is, this is much softer, this is much milder, more discreet. I remember the first intensive I took with Gurudev, when they started, giving initiation, people started roaring and shouting and jumping and doing many things. And it is said that the Guru is not only the one who is capable to help you to arise your Kundalini Shakti, but also he can control it for the best outcome, because each person comes with different baggage to the intensive. So I remember at that moment he said, now we will meditate with great peace. And it's like he pushed the switch. Silence. That was extraordinary. That was in Los Angeles, California, 1983 for me. So he continues with this, and we have this chant that is called the Kundalini Stavaha. And I'm just going to read 3 paragraphs, because you have the book, you can read it yourselves. But I think it's important to see what people think about this energy. It is ancient. It is from thousands of years ago, and it's on page 163. Mm. 68. So it says, it's just one paragraph actually. It says, the Kula Kundalini is always looking for opportunities to redeem her devotees from the cycle of birth and death. So because the reason we keep on coming is because we leave things unfinished, and then the theory of the coming and going, dying, being born again, dying, being born again, then it's because we have to finish or balance our karmas. No? She is ever young. She is the origin of the Vedas and other scriptures heard through the mind. Sometimes she exists in the form of saints. Let that auspicious one protect me so that I may attain divine union. I consider myself to be her beloved servant. O Mother, you are naturally the wife of the primordial God, whereas I am bound soul, more wretched than the wretched. So this is what the Kundalini starts by saying. And I can tell you that it could take one session of the study group or one talk like this just to analyze the Kundalini Stavaha, but at the moment, I just wanted to remind you or introduce you to this knowledge, to this esoteric knowledge. Now, there are many schools of Tantra. There are 4 that are the main ones, and the main one of the 4th is called Kaula. So it's the Kaula school, the Kaula path, the Kaula teachings. And this is what Baba Muktananda practiced, Kaula. So we inherit that Kaula knowledge from he, Gurudev, and then us. And this, what they use is basically mantra, which we know that this is mantra Om Namah Shivaya. This is the mantra of the Kaula school. Then there is yantra, which we can do one class only with that, because it's like the triangles and the geometry that form the object of meditation that is deeper than the image of the goddess itself. So there are 3 levels. There is the dense level, which is the goddess, the figure of the woman, which in many of her names and forms and colors. And there's something deeper that is to meditate on this triangle, and this conjunction of triangles, which is called yantra. And it can be in 2 ways. So it can be flat, so like a triangle, or it can be in the form of a little mountain. It's like if you pull that from the center with, like that. And this is called Meru Yantra. But we will study that in the future, because that also would take time to explain all these things. And because even Greeks say that God speaks in music, and mathematics and geometry. So Euclides and all these Greeks that I've been checking, they also were in love with the representation in mathematics of the spheres, the celestial spheres, and the destiny of people. It's very, very wise and vast. So this energy is represented for us in the form of a goddess who has many different advocations. You know, advocations is like the appearances. So we would never finish because there must be thousands, but basically for us is Durga. Goddess Durga is the main one. We'll explain more about this. And I hope you find it as interesting as I do, because all of this is being now scientifically studied. And the end of the study now, with this person, Peñar, that got the Nobel Prize in Physics studying consciousness. So what he says is that they call it unified field, and that we are all this unified field. It's like quantum, more or less, but it's more than that, it's deeper. So we are all this field. We are not in this field. The field is not in us. We are the field. We are that vibrating existence and bliss. So we study yantra at some more time, and also mental worship, like we are thinking of adoring the deity, but we don't need anything external. We don't need flowers. We don't need japamalas. We don't need anything. We do it all mentally. And one sample of this is called the mental worship of Shiva that we do or chant every single day. I also have a short paragraph because time is of the essence here. So there was a saint called Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Many people may know who he was, many people don't, but he was very, very important in the history of spiritual India. So what he recommended for these kind of practices is this. He says, the deity should be offered the heart as his seat. So in your heart, you imagine that the deity or your beloved form sits there in your heart. Feelings and emotion of the mind should be as to wash his feet. It's very oriental, this thing of people coming as guests and people, you know, like Jesus Christ went to visit somebody and they washed his feet. This thing of welcoming people, washing his feet is very oriental. So it should be to wash his feet. The mind should be used to create the offerings. So you think, okay, ritual, water, sandal paste, perfume, incense, fragrant air, leaves, etc. In your mind, you are offering all of this. You create like a throne, you see the deity there in your heart, and you offer all this. And we chant this every day, but the problem when we nobody explains it, or we don't read the translation, we just, it's important to have an idea of what we're doing. Then the element space, or akasha, should be offered as the clothing. So you imagine, you know, silk, or wool, or you create a dress for the goddess. And in the heart, offer flowers, but imaginary flowers. This is Tantra. Everything is, you're just sitting there, creating all this worship. And all the positive and negative qualities, such as deceit, anger, egotism, knowledge, compassion, should also be placed before the deity as offering of flowers. Good and bad, because at that level, there's no good and bad, there's just energy. So I have a lot more about this, but I'm just giving you an idea of one of the main practices of this Tantra. You can come here whenever you want. Every day we sing this chant. Now, the creative energy of Shiva is known as Shakti. Shakti is power, energy, ability. In the dictionary, it's called like that. And energy, from the Greek roots, means something that works, something that gives an impulse, something that makes a thing change. They call that energia in Greek. Because I went to the Greeks because I thought I must find some Western matching here. I could say that one could devote a whole 90-minute session of the study group just to analyze the text that we have for the Kula under the umbrella of the Kaula Marga, which is ours. So if somebody were to ask you, what do you study? I study, no, Srividya, which belongs to the Kaula Marga of the Tantra. That's what I study. Now we know, right? Then the main text that we use here is called The Thousand Names of Goddess Lalita Ambika. So we do that every Friday here in the morning, and during Navaratri every evening. And you can come and do it with us. And as I was thinking, we could also do a whole talk just analyzing, because it's not just words. Each syllable in the Sanskrit alphabet vibrates in different parts of the body. And when you pronounce it correctly, I was told by my Sanskrit teacher, you never get sick. So I rarely, it must work very well. And so you repeat the alphabet, and you feel it, with a little practice, how it vibrates in different types of the body, because this body is the pattern of creation, similar as the Sanskrit language, as the Spanish, everything is just the same. When we start seeing everything as the same, then we can relate easily to this. But then you may ask, I don't know, you would ask, why we study Sanskrit? Why not English? So, because the vibration of these letters from time immemorial is like Latin. They have a certain frequency, they have a certain power, and so when you chant them, you immediately feel it. Like when we have here the pujas with Prabal or with Lavarji, all our great officiants here, some people cry, some people feel like coughing, some people need to get up, and the body receives the influence of this very powerful language that is Sanskrit. So that is why we use it. It definitely doesn't sound the same in any other language. So this energy is always moving. Then we have also the Chandipat, or the glory of the goddess Durga, that we study during the Navaratra. It's important to know this because this is called the testament of the Shakta cult. It's not just any book, it's a very important book, and we're very lucky that we have the officiants here to chant this book for us. It is incredible. When you go to places where people have to chant with a video, or they have to chant with a tape, then you realize, the power that him. And then what we are currently studying is the Saundarya Lahari, which is Ocean of Beauty. So these are the main 3 books of this school. And then the aspect of this energy is always active. As I was saying, when it's not expanding, it is contracting, expanding, contracting, like the universe, but in the smallest expressions, it's always the same. It's always expanding, basically. And when it's immanent, or when it's not moving, then it's called Shiva. So Shiva is the same thing exactly. It's not 2. Because when we say Shiva Shakti, we tend to think that it's 2. No, it's 1, but it's like the 2 qualities at the same time functioning. One is the base, when it could be maybe when it's Rajas, the activity, and when it's Tamas, what holds you down. So Shakti needs Tamas to hold her, from her to be able to work from that space. And then, of course, we need the energy to create all this, and we create it as well. With our thoughts, with our actions, we start like putting the building blocks of our destiny. It's so profound, really. I'm really trying not to go too fast. So it's one energy with different manifestations. Now, I have an idea because I took a course totally different, but they told us something. How could you experience this oneness or unified field at the same time of duality? So they taught us this. You have a bucket with cold water, and you have a bucket with hot water, as cold as you can, as hot. Then you put your hand in the cold water and the other hand in the hot water and feel. Okay, when you go home, you can do it. So you feel it, and it's not warm, it's hot and cold. But at the same time, you are feeling. In order to get detached from the I am feeling, you just concentrate on the feeling itself outside of you. You concentrate in the feeling outside of you. And I will continue a little more now about the phenomenon of getting detached. Clear? This is very easy, and then you understand at a different level, probably the molecular level, what it is to have two things at the same time, and one. It's called a paradox. We used that word a lot last week. So you feel the activity of, then there's another you can practice. Feel the activity of your body. Like when you sit down quietly, you can feel the blood running in your vessels. You can feel the lungs, stomach, and abdomen, breathing in, breathing out. But you see the movement, you experience the movement. You very consciously don't think, I am breathing. No. The I, we put it there and close the door. When you concentrate on what is happening instead of I am doing, little by little, according to this teaching, the ego becomes weaker and weaker and weaker. It's not that we will never have ego because we need it to function, but it's not always that I am breathing. Then you watch the mind creating and dissolving thoughts. That is meditation, really, when you watch your mind and it says, oh, I think, when is this woman? And then you watch it. You don't feed it. You don't give it any emotion. You don't give any interest. You don't reject it, okay? You just see it, and it will go. And then another will come, another will go. And you will experience then what it is for Shakti to create, sustain, and dissolve. Because the thought is creating, is sustained for a minute or more, and then it dissolves and gives space for another one. Mm-hmm. So at the back of all this, immobility, the empty space, you also become aware of this space that is empty, that is you, that is Shiva. And then all this activity that is just happening as we are happening. Yep. And then we are chanting every day also the song that is Shiva when he is united with Shakti. In order to, so Gurudev, what he said is from chanting and chanting the same thing, then you go, I'm chanting this, and at some point it does this. Oh, it's me. It happens to everything. So I'm very clear, I'll tell you something. I have a nephew, and when he was little, he was learning mathematics, you know, when you are dividing and all that. And he would get under the bed, trying to understand how is this. And I remember when he came one day from under the bed, and he told me, Mama, I understand the mathematics. It's that. So you repeat this chant, or you repeat the tables 7 times 7, 7 times 7, whatever, your mind absorbs it and makes it owns it, right? It's not different with this. This is why we keep chanting. So only the first 4 words, and I'm praying that I'm not going too fast. So it says Shiva, Shaktya, Yukto, Yari. Shiva, Shaktya, Yukto, Yari. So which means this, when Shiva is united with Shakti, and we put the when or if at the end, because Sanskrit is like that. Shiva, Shaktya, with Shakti, Yukto, united, Yari, if. In English, we would do the other way, but it's fine. In English, we do it too. I remember they say, Winston Churchill had a phrase that said, when is a different, no, 1 second. With is a terrible way to finish, oh no, a preposition, yeah, I got it. A preposition is a horrible way to end a sentence with. A preposition is a terrible way to end a sentence with. So this is what happens. In English, we use it too, right? But in Sanskrit, the thing is you can put it anywhere and you can understand if it's future, it's possessive, it's feminine, by something else. I don't have the time. So what happens is we do, okay, when Shiva is united with Shakti, otherwise he cannot even move. He cannot even vibrate. He cannot create anything. That is what the hymn says. It's just 4 lines. And how can I worship that energy when the gods themselves don't know how to do it? Only somebody who has a lot of merit, who is very devoted or has lived a very good life, So this we repeat every day, morning, noon, and night. And one day, Gurudev said, you will get it. That is the expression. So this is the main study for this year. Now, I like to, about the fundamental field, the unified field, because we're used to this. So in the 17th, there was this Maharishi Mahesh who came to the West, the guru of the Beatles. And then he studied physics in Allahabad University, and his thing was unified field. So he described meditation, this is important, as a state of keen alertness. So you're very alert, you hear, you're not gone outside of this world, you're just like peace. He used to say that it was a state of keen alertness and deep rest. So this is another paradox. You are with keen alertness and at the same time deep rest. This unique state is the fourth state that is, spoken of in the Upanishads. Is awaken, awaken or sleeping or dreaming, or the fourth state which permeates all three, consciousness. Then one doesn't really need to sit for meditation. I mean, we do it as a discipline and as a practice, but anything you're doing, you can use it to access this space. Like you are joyful, you can say, yeah, but blissful. What is this like? Just put a little more volume. Blissful, joyful. So anything you do, you make it remind you of that goal constantly, all the time, until it becomes a habit, a reality for you. So it says here, any moment when the mind is totally concentrated, watching television, if it's very interesting, and you feel the mind stops. So you can think, when it stops, then I'm there. It doesn't matter what the stimuli is, it's just that you go there. The mind naturally gravitates towards the place of greater joy, of greater pleasure. It's like you remember a song and you go with the whole song. So we take advantage of this capacity of the mind to keep it there where we want it. Resolving a mathematical question also, listening to an interesting story. You must know that when somebody is telling something really interesting, you feel like you're not even breathing, right? Because then the mind is there. You just have to become aware of it. This is called by different names, this power. The goddesses that represent it, we will hear these names, is Korna Tripura Sundari, which is the beautiful goddess of 3 cities. Because this beautiful goddess, Tripura Sundari, what it does is it rules the 3 states of the mind: awake, sleeping, dreaming. And also the other 3 that are the 3 levels of speech. You remember that? The 3 levels of speech? She has to do with everything. Her fingers in all pies, the Devi. Finally, I would like to talk a little bit of paradox, which is a statement in which 2 truths, apparently they're contradictory, cannot be together, etc. But they are. So in this field that we are studying, we could ask, is there only one God? Yes and no. There is only one, but there is only all the bunch of 33,000 gods in Hinduism. So it's a yes and no. Does God have a form? Yes and no. We can worship the God without form. We can worship all the forms of the goddess and gods and everybody in that realm. So it's yes and no. It's a paradox. We become close to it. You begin to get out of the box, like Gurudev said, remember? He said, you're used to thinking in a box, this is good, this is bad. We have to break that box and understand reality in all its fullness. Then, does God exist? Yes and no. It depends what you call it. Like there are some philosophies like Sankhya don't talk about God, Buddhism, Jainism, and still they are school of spirituality. So this is what happened, that we come out of everything and then we see that statue that is there and we can go and admire it, which is half woman, half man. It's Shiva Shakti. Now, there's just one more example I have that I thought about us being that. And it's about, as usual, the clay pots, because that's what remains. So there is a fourth state. This is being awake, sleeping, and dreaming, and then the fourth state. And it is described like this. It is unseen, because you cannot see it with the senses. It is incomprehensible. You cannot really explain it. Uninferable. You cannot say, because this, then that. No, it's just it, Brahman. Indescribable. This is what has to be realized. So this, how do you do it? In the book, it's called Taittiriya Upanishad. It is like an exercise, and the exercise is to imagine a large clay pot and a little clay pot. And then Gatakasha, this is the name of the air that is inside of the pot. And the Akasha is outside of the pot, okay? So it says, Gatakasha refers to the ether or the air contained within a pot, while Mahakasha refers to the vast ether that exists outside of the pot, both representing the same essence, okay? So the same essence is that, and I think that I have more of something when I have more of other things, and less when I have less, but it's always the same. And the teaching here is the ether or the air is not in the pot. The pot is in the air. And I am not in that. That is not in me. We cannot be looking for this experience inside. When I say look inside, you're going to find nothing inside. We are in it. It's a subtle difference, but it's totally important in order to experience this. So it is not in me, but I am in it. So I'm not repeating the mantra. The mantra is repeating itself, a japa, japa. When we repeat the mantra, for example, it's called japa. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Then we hear it. It repeats itself, and we are inside it. And it's called no repetition, japa. So we know all these exercises. We've been doing this for many years, but now they're here together in the same book. And they tell us, you don't look for it, just become aware that you are it. Because the more you look, the more your mind goes crazy trying to understand all these things. And I don't know, we have time for a little. Because there's Srividya, the 3 levels of speech. So we have 3 levels in which we express ourselves. This is the last one. So there's physical, when we speak. There's subtle, when we think. And then the transcendental, which is beyond those. What happens is that when we feel the impulse of something, of doing something, saying something, or thinking something, then it comes from a place. One of the meditations is to discern it or find it in the moment when the spanda comes up. And so we do it, and then we can analyze feel how it's formed into a thought, then an idea, then a word, and finally comes out of the mouth, or in an action, or as an action. So for the worship, they said, you can have 3 different ways to do it. One is the form of the deity, like we do pujas, and then contemplation of the yantra, which we will study next time. Absorption in the deity's root mantra. So it's the mantra, the yantra, and the tantra, all of that. Becoming aware of the forces of nature that are there, for example, gravity. Gravity sustains us here, but it lets us move because it's a weak energy. It's weak, okay? So because of that, the earth is where it is. It sustains itself in the universe. We are able to sustain ourselves, to walk, to stop, to sit down, to get up. Everything is due to this gravity energy. So when you feel it, it's a great way to make silence in the mind because you're just experiencing. Every time we experience and don't give it a name, we are eliminating the need for giving it names. So this is called a weak energy, gravity, and it's very attractive once you start to read about it. Actually, gravity in Sanskrit is called gurutva. So it means attractive to the master, attractive to the teachings, attracting to the practices, attracting to this. So we are attractive. So thank you for listening. I hope that it was interesting. Me, I love it. We're going to continue. We have the study groups every other week. If you're not subscribed to it, I recommend that you do it, because then it's 90 minutes in which you totally immerse yourself in the study, and then the Sunday talks also. So we are very, very fortunate to have all these opportunities. And in June, I just want to say this as an announcement, that we have the course on Hatha Yoga. So in June, think about it. If you want to register, there's two extraordinary teachers, Paula and Mary, and they have the foundation of the philosophy by which you explain the changes that happen in the body as a result of practicing Hatha Yoga. So you will receive the information, etc., but it's a good thing that is happening here in June. You can read the flyer. If you don't want to read the flyer, you can call me, and I'll be happy to explain everything, right? Okay, so let's have a great day today. Sagurunath Maharaj Ki Jai. Mm-hmm. Yes, if they have. Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. Or comments, or yeah, we don't need a microphone.
So, thank you. This is a beautiful talk, beautiful, and it made me more excited to keep studying all these beautiful topics. I'm gonna just request, you brought up about our topic for the year, Sundarya Lahari.
Mm-hmm.
So my request is for you to, for those of us that are, aren't that familiar with the work, could you summarize for us, as you have been doing, what we can gain from this work, studying this work?
Yes, it is important because the writer, the author, is Adi Shankaracharya, and we know him as a Advaita Vedantin, which means he believes that everything is one and there's no need for anything. And in some of his writings, especially the Upanishads, it says you don't need anything but yourself, no rituals or anything. However, he's doing that in that book. And what happens is that all these 100 verses are about the Devi, but each one of the words sometimes have 2, 3, 4 meanings. Then it's very apt to be analyzed, and you can take time with even one of the verses. By going deep into it, what happens is like it becomes you, because you are reading it, and then it doesn't have to be about somebody else. It doesn't have to be about a goddess. People even that not too much into rituals, they can, all these qualities, all these capacities, all these places, all these actions, then you understand it in a different way, which is far more personal. Yeah. That's what happens.